My love-hate relationship with this season of the challenge continues. I'm John Chidley Hill,
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
and this is You Killed It, the podcast talking about the challenge. I'm battling through a cold here. All the greats played hurt, Shelley.
It happens. It happens. I understand.
No
It
one.
is.
Sorry, go ahead, Shelley.
No. I was just going to say sick, not feeling well, battling through the new year, the holidays, all that fun stuff. But we are still here for episode 11 of season 39.
I was gonna say all the greats played hurt, which the good news about this season is no one's gotten hurt because none of these people are
Hurt
greats.
feelings, maybe.
Hurt feelings. True. Man,
Wow.
I just want to say I had one of those great experiences that we talk about sometimes on You Killed It.
Okay.
My girlfriend came home halfway through this episode.
Okay.
She caught the tail end. And it's always such an interesting, we'll get there when we get there, but it's always such an interesting insight when a non-challenge fan watches the challenge with you because it put things in a new light. We'll just say that.
Yes, definitely true. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that out of the pod, but I'll say that to you after. And I know someone complained before about like, Sean's got to stop saying blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, I have a job to protect. Okay. So if it's between me stopping myself midway through, almost getting myself in very big trouble, I'm going to do that every time for the record. But I will say point taken, and I will just try to think more before I speak into a microphone.
If it makes our listeners feel better, if you ever get the chance to meet Sheldon in person, he's very much an open book.
Yeah, I will tell you everything that I've almost said on the pod that would get me in trouble. I will tell you in person. If you see me on the street and just ask, hey, give me one of the things that you've said. I was going to say that, but I shouldn't say that into a microphone. If you stop me in the street and say that, I will tell you one of the things. I promise.
I will say, I think we've gotten better at that sort of self-editing. There was times early on in You Killed It history, I'm talking like the first 25 episodes, where like I was editing the podcast in those days, and there was moments where like Sheldon would text me, or I'd be like, hey, so I'm cutting out 15 minutes of what we said. Whereas now at least 99 times out of 100, we catch ourselves before we say something we really regret.
True. Very true.
Either that or we just care less about our personal and professional lives.
Ooh, that's not true.
Speak for yourself, Sheldon.
I see what you did there. I think this, what did I say? Oh, a napping contest. I think I'm going to call this episode napping contest because that's what, what's his name? Kylan said. Essentially that they're going to have a nighttime challenge, and he's not really ready for it because everyone's tired and it's nighttime.
I think actually Kylan made a good point where he said that like he just competed in an elimination, and he's like, he recognized in himself he was having an adrenaline crash, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to get back up for this. And like, I think that's a fair point, like of anyone in the house.
Yeah. When they said it was a night challenge though, were you thinking that it was going to be grueling? Like a difficult like challenge?
I think of previous night challenges where they've been like stand on this box but on one leg and you have to stay up all night, or like do you remember there was that crazy one where they had to swim underwater and go through like hoops?
Yeah.
Like I thought it would be more intense, whereas this one I don't want to say it was easy because like I know I can't do the eating challenges, but like, and like the boxes were clearly super heavy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like,
the trivia questions weren't hard.
It was the easiest trivia they've ever had by like a country mile.
Unless you're Raven.
Most of them were struggling through these. But the other thing that I was struck by was like, this was a daily competition looking for a theme. Like, why was it all like Halloween themed?
Yeah, the whole graveyard thing was super interesting, right? And Olivia saying that she was once invited on a date to a graveyard. Like,
Yeah.
what? Where are you meeting these people that are like, hey, I think we should meet at a graveyard for a date? Now, I know she said that she didn't go, but still, I feel like there's got to be some signs before that, that like, I don't know if this person's someone I should be rocking with.
You've clearly
No,
never been involved with a goth.
you are correct.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing though is like
That was
this
pretty
episode,
well played.
thank you. Thank you. This episode came out like late December. If
Mhm.
only there was one or two major holidays that involve eating a lot of food
Hmm.
that happen in mid to late December. If only.
Interesting. Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah, I
Seriously
don't
though,
know.
like what were they doing? I don't get it. How hard would it be to put some tinsel out, have a menorah, have a Festivus pole? Like this isn't hard, people. I'm not a TV producer, but like this came pretty easily.
Maybe it was just made for Manuel, and that was the
Oh my
goal. They just
god.
wanted to give him like a home court advantage.
Can we talk about Homeboy?
I mean, yeah.
This is like my grandma's house. I love it. What are you talking about? There's no way this is like your grandmother's house.
I mean,
Come on, man.
I've never been to a vampire's grandmother's house. It's true. Have you?
I mean, no. I'm not Eastern European or of Eastern European descent, but I
Okay.
feel like he's leaning into stereotypes that are probably harmful to
Oh,
people
okay.
from Romania.
Interesting. Okay. 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 Fair. Fair.
Don't
Fair.
you think so? Like what is he
To be
playing at
honest,
exactly?
when he starts talking, I kind of tune him out. I'm
you
gonna
just hear you just hear like a humming sound.
It's like it was a Charlie Brown. The wah wah wah. Was that Charlie Brown?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. This eating challenge though. So the eating challenge, first off, so if we break this down, right? You essentially have to you have to run over to where these two boxes are, answer a trivia question. If you get it right, you get to carry the lighter box. If you get it wrong, you carry the heavier box. And then once you bring back, I forget how many boxes there were, 3 maybe.
It was
You,
it's 3.
you got to open up said box, which would then allow you to start eating. And yeah, I don't know. I thought the questions, they could have done a better job on the questions, but it's not even like, I mean, maybe they didn't show us all of the answers. I don't know, but I kind of felt like they did, at least for what they said the challenge was.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think the questions were that hard at all.
No.
I know you right away. My question for you is, how upset were you in at the question of them getting wrong? Who won the most WWE titles, The Rock or John Cena?
I mean, deeply upset.
Because I don't even watch wrestling anymore, and I would say that like I was out of wrestling, probably like the Attitude Era, like just after probably would have been the last time I was into wrestling, right? But like John Cena, like I know of it when it was happening, but I wasn't really around. But like
Mm-hmm.
he was such a big star that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's annoying. But also had like it's so funny how much I feel like I know of John Cena's career despite not watching wrestling at that time. That's how big of a star he was in terms of how they made him, a comedic guy. Then he was the cool guy. Then he was a bad guy. And then he was a cool guy again. And then he did the whole like fake Hulk Hogan thing, like eat your prayers guy. Eat your prayers. You know what I'm saying? Eat
I
your
like
prayers.
your prayers. I mean, I think though it speaks volumes that you don't watch wrestling anymore, but you're aware of John Cena. And I know he acts now,
Mhm.
but like I think that should tell people something about how many titles he's won. And like just for the
Yeah.
record, he's won more WWE like overall titles,
Mhm.
like the championship, the heavyweight championship. He's won like 10 more than The Rock. Like it's not even
Yeah.
close. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like you could say like, oh, between John Cena and Randy Orton, and like that's actually like they're within 1 or 2 of each other.
Mhm.
but like it's not even close.
But also, I just thought that The Rock, because I remembered The Rock, I thought that The Rock left. The Rock probably could have been there more, but like he just blew up so much and was able to transition fully into acting and.
Yeah. He's coming back for the Royal Rumble, eh? He's gonna
Oh,
face his cousin Roman Reigns.
really?
Hmm.
Oh, why does The Rock need to wrestle still?
Money talks.
Damn, how much could they possibly? I guess it's WrestleMania, so there's lots of money involved. But
Yeah.
wow, or sorry, Royal Rumble, not
Yeah.
WrestleMania, but still,
The,
like,
the second biggest.
yeah, wow. The Rock, he's talk about work ethic. That guy's like, does that guy go on vacation?
I mean, he works so hard that you kind of have to think it's like a sickness. Like it's like Mark Wahlberg and his routine of waking up at like 4 a.m. each day.
Hmm.
Like there comes a point where you're like, oh, you're like not well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, totally, 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 totally. But what other questions stood out to you the most that were kind of like, wait, really? Or either you thought it was a good question, maybe.
There was no questions that I thought were good. So I honestly I didn't even write them down because they were all so obvious. So like they're not
Yeah.
even sticking in my brain.
Because like who had more IG followers, Kendall or Kylie Jenner or Cristiano Ronaldo?
Yeah.
And what's her name said Kylie Jenner. And I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, all right.
I mean, I thought the hardest one for Americans was the one about Lewis Hamilton and how many world championships he's won.
Yes. Because I wouldn't have known that one. I wouldn't know that.
Well, and also the options were 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So like
For
that's
sure.
tough, but like and Mariah thought he was a scientist.
I mean, the funny part about that is Mariah doesn't strike me as a person who would know many scientists.
Yeah, I like that that's where her brain went.
Hmm. Yeah. Lewis
Um
Hamilton does sound like
and
a distinguished gentleman.
the other one that I found upsetting and like I can't believe I'm going to say this because I don't even like this group, but like the who's won more Grammys, Beyonce or U2? And Bernard's like, who's U2? I'm like, listen, I'm still mad that U2 was put on my iPod without my permission.
Yeah.
But like,
Come on.
they're a big deal. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying
Like,
that they're a bigger deal than Beyonce. I'm not gonna go there. But like they're not nobody. Like they were one of the biggest bands of the 80s and into the 90s. Like from 1985 to 1997, even to 2001. Like they
yeah.
had huge albums.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. Like that there's certain things that just cross over that you have to know. And it's not like I can sit here and name you multiple U2 songs, but I definitely know of them. And you play a
Yeah.
song and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I've heard that song before.
Hmm. I gotta say though, Shelly, for all my talk about being able to do the trivia, I wouldn't be able to eat any of this food. Like I know my own weaknesses. I'm not
I,
too proud.
I would like to think that I might be able to do a lot of it. I'd like to think so. But I feel like one thing that would get me for sure is the smell. And once people started throwing up, I wouldn't do
Yeah.
well. That would be the thing that would get me the most. If you put me in my own room where like I don't have to hear anyone else and it's like, hey, you got to eat these things to leave, I could probably figure that out.
I'll tell you, and like, I apologize to listeners if I've told this story before. I, when I was in undergrad, second year at U of T, I went to the Brunny, which is a now
Shouts to
closed,
the
but an
bro.
infamous bar in Toronto's university scene in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Hold on.
And
Don't hold. I got a story for you after on your comment on the 90s and 2000s. Just go on though.
all right, so I went to the Brunny with some friends,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a guy who was like, sort of maybe, I guess they didn't use this phrase then, but he was like in a situationship with a
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine.
Okay.
And I guess he felt threatened by my presence.
Okay.
So he handed me a shot. I was like, do it. And like, I was in such a state that I was like, sure, I'll whatever. This is a free drink.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pure Tabasco sauce. and I was immediately in a bad way.
Of
And
course.
you might recall the washrooms at the Brunny were slightly like 3 steps down
Mhm.
and had a low overhang. I hit my head in my rush to get to the washroom, and I just puked my guts out. Like, it was such a bad scene.
Oh.
And like had a big bruise on my forehead, and like it was super rough. Like, that guy was a dick. All this is to say, I just kept looking at that like oily, spicy one that they had to drink. And I'm like, that's the worst one.
Yeah.
Because not only are you going to throw it up immediately, or at least I would, but that oil is going to haunt you for at least 48 hours. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be messed. It's like eating a stick of butter. Like, you're going to be in a bad way for days.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And that's like, oof. My story of the Brunny was gonna be way better than that, and probably good to tell just to switch up the vibes. But the Brunny, for people who aren't from Toronto, which I'm assuming is a lot of people listening to this podcast, but the Brunny was like the spot that you went to as like you could get in as underage kids and party, and that's where I learned. That's where our mutual friend David Beveridge once taught me how to pour a pitcher like into a pint glass without foam. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about like early drinking years spent at the Brunny. And so fast forward to 2 summers ago. Yeah, 2 summers ago, I'm at my aunt's like 75th birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my aunt and uncle were two of the people who were involved in starting the Caravana parade in Toronto.
Oh, that's
So,
huge.
yeah. So there's a lot of like obviously there's a lot of like older like Trinis there as well, like at this party, who I haven't seen in like a long time. And in like a lot of people do this. I know, like, you call people your aunt and uncle even though they're not your aunt and uncle, but they're just friends of your parents, right?
Yeah.
And so my uncle Jerry starts telling, because I'm asking questions now. I'm like, oh, where did you guys live in the city when you first came here in the 70s? And he's like, oh yeah, I came here in, I think he said like 1968 or something like that. He's like, but I was here all through the 70s, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where did you grow up? And not grow up. Where did you guys stay? And he's like, oh, I lived on Brunswick Avenue. That was the first place we lived. I'm like, Brunswick Avenue? You mean like the Brunny? And he's like, yeah, the Brunny, that place was great. Like, we were partying there all the time. And I'm like, hold on, the Brunny was holding it down and since that long in the 70s, right? And they're like, wait, you know the Brunny? I'm like, yeah, I went there in high school, like all the time. And then my mom was like sitting right there at the table. And my little cousin, who's like 10 years younger than me, she like kind of looks at me. She's like, oh, since high school, huh? And I'm like, I mean, well, yeah. And then we all just laugh because, yeah, of course. But
Well,
shouts to the Brunny
it's too late
holding
now,
it
Mrs.
down
Alexander.
right. The Brunny holding it down for decades.
What I think is incredible is the Maddie is still going
Yeah.
and going strong. I'm gonna say this to our listeners, because we've had listeners in the past reach out to you and I for party tips because they're coming to Toronto.
Okay.
If you're under the age of, let's say, 25,
Okay.
especially if you're in college, university, the place to go is the Madison Avenue Pub, aka the Maddie.
Yeah.
I think you'd agree with me, Sheldon. Just to describe it to our listeners.
I'm at least gonna put it at like under 23.
Okay. All right. That's fair. But the Maddie is 3 houses, like 3 old Victorian houses connected by bridges.
Yeah.
So like imagine, like, it is on a Friday or Saturday night, it is such a party, and you get lost in there, you lose friends, you find your friends,
You make
because
new friends.
you make new friends because you're exploring it. Like, you enter in like the basement of one of them, and then you just like work your way through this maze. It's crazy. There's a piano bar on one floor, there's billiards on another floor, there's like a massive back deck that overlooks Spadina, which is one of the biggest streets in Toronto. It's stumbling distance to not one but 2 subway lines. Like, it is the spot. Sheldon's right, if you're under 23,
Yeah. This is a solid spot. That was also another spot that I remember going to when we were in high school and had when I first got my fake ID. I do remember going there. And then after like we had like 2 or 3 weeks there until they changed it and said, sorry, you got to be 21 and over to get in. Because obviously most of our fake IDs are all like, 19,
19, yeah.
maybe 20 if you're lucky. Shout out to I shouldn't say my guy's government name on here. That's a terrible idea. See, another moment. I stopped myself
Why can't you say it? It's all good now.
because you saying someone else's that's a crime. I can't say someone gave me their ID that I then used to cause tomfoolery across the city of Toronto. That sounds like
The,
dry snitching. Come on.
the statute of limitations has long since passed.
How old do you think I am? This was like two. No, I'm joking. You're right. I'm a man. I'm 40. Very true. Very true. Well played. I don't even know what we were talking about. How did we end up talking about the
James,
baddie
Corey,
rebel?
Colleen, and Mariah win, which
Yes.
is a huge opportunity to turn the house upside down. A
Mhm.
huge one.
Yeah.
After a lot of debate, they put in Raven. Do you think
Okay.
that's the right call, Sheldon? I know Raven thinks it's the wrong call, but do you, Sheldon, Alexander, do you think it's the right call?
I genuinely can't say what's the right or wrong call anymore because I don't know who's working with who. Do you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. Mariah and James, I don't know the game that they're playing, right? I thought that Raven would have been cool with them because remember Raven was with Callum. Not Callum. What was Raven's guy's name? Callum was with Michelle. But
Manuel.
no. There's another guy before that. Remember the blonde guy? He got
Oh,
kicked out.
right. Kieran.
Kieran, yes. Right. So like remember, like that was a thing. So I can't really tell where James and Mariah's heads are at. But also James is also the guy that was like, I only have one other person in the house anyways, meaning Zara. He's like, so it doesn't really matter to me who goes in. And it's like, okay, that's a blatant lie. But it's just weird. I don't understand. Mariah's like, oh, I was outvoted. And then James says he didn't care. And it's like, simple math tells you that math isn't mathing.
So like they're obviously not privy to the information that we're privy to.
Mm-hmm.
But like Mariah to some degree is.
Okay.
They know who's in their alliance, they know who's not in their alliance,
Correct.
and they know who is the least valuable members of the other alliance.
Mm-hmm.
By default, you could narrow down who the most important members of that other alliance are, right? Like I'm not saying that they would necessarily guess to put in Michelle, but they could narrow it down to Michelle, Nurys, and Olivia, right?
Yes. But I also think that at the end of the day, though, if you're really thinking about it, do we know who like I don't really know who's rocking with who, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that really to me is the biggest problem or like issue that I have of what's going on here. These guys just don't know who they're rocking with, who they want to be in their alliance, and that's the biggest problem.
The other thing is, so there's 16 people left in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between 10 and 12 people are more or less in the same alliance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild.
Super wild. Super wild. But yeah, I mean, then I feel like so much of this episode now just becomes different people huddled up in corners, confusing me over who's in whose alliance. No?
Yeah. I thought it was so funny that Raven was so salty. Like she was so mad.
Oh, the her and Corey thing.
Yeah,
and
but like
yeah.
Raven, people not inside your alliance won. Like this is what happens.
Yeah. It is, but like she doesn't know what to do. Raven is like super confused, super like emotional, and I get it because like in this house, it's such a like crazy set of emotions, and you don't know who to trust. You don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Meanwhile, we get back to the house.
Mhm.
Let's get to the juice, Sheldon.
Okay.
Nerys and Horacio have sort of like a grade school date
Yep.
where he's trying to teach her how to juggle a soccer ball, a football to the rest of the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And she says that it's like she's back in middle school and senior school
Yeah.
where she has a crush, but there's no kissing, there's just hand holding.
Mhm.
How are they resisting kissing each other this far?
I think they both, but probably mostly him, are like, because we've seen him like this on the prior season as well. He's just not going to do anything on camera, right?
Hmm.
Like I feel like he, even in the conversation they have, they don't really talk about what he does or why he's going to be away. But my assumption is that he's just so cognizant of not messing that up. So he doesn't want to do anything that could harm that.
What he's away on is he is on a Hispanic reality TV show.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why they can't say the name because it's not
Interesting.
part of the challenge family.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, Nurys, listen, we can sit here and say, like, I can acknowledge that Horacio is a good looking dude. But I'm going to speak on this from my perspective as a man who enjoys the company of women. I'm not sure. There's an old Chris Rock bit that talks about um, chasing and how like you might stop chasing, but if it's chasing you, we can't run. We can't run that
Mhm.
fast away. Like eventually, I feel like Nerys, like I don't know how one would be able to just be like, yeah, I don't know about this. I don't think I can do it. That's tough. It's very tough. And we've seen people deal with this in the challenge house before, and they always seem to find a way. Like when you really need to find a way, you find a way in the challenge house. No,
I mean, I have it in my notes here
okay,
when Nerys is talking about like, oh, I don't know, 8 months, and like in fairness to Nerys, 8 months is a big ask.
that is a massive ask.
Is a big ask. Horacio,
Mhm.
I think, is worth the wait. I think he's a genuinely good guy. He is super hot. He has his life together in a lot of ways. Not he doesn't play this game well, but
Mhm.
outside the house, he seems to have his act together. Like I think he is a rare find.
Okay.
I think Nerys is a rare find.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is Horacio is worth the wait, but also Nerys is worth the effort.
Correct.
And
Correct.
like if it's an elimination style show, maybe you're out of there after 1 week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
That's pretty funny.
sure, you got contractual commitments, but you can be like, oh, I pulled my hamstring. Peace out, guys. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
like, think
It's
outside the
tough.
box here.
It's tough, right? Because I feel like the other reason he could be like further to your point of him being a good dude, he probably, it seems like there's part of him that might be holding out because he knows that he wants to like date her. And, starting something within the house when he's about to just go off anyways, he doesn't want to do that. And there's a world in which I can understand, okay, I don't want to just like hook up with you on this reality TV show. Like I can understand that. Now I'm saying that from the viewpoint of someone not on reality TV, as in I wouldn't go on reality TV to then hook up with someone. But I'm
Hmm.
saying like obviously people go on with the mindset of I don't want to hook up with anyone on TV. Like, I'm here to win money or this is my job, this, that, and the third. So from that angle, I could understand where he's coming from. But from every angle that they show Nurys on television, I'm like, Okay, Horacio, you are a strong, strong man, my dude.
He has shown tremendous restraint.
Mhm.
But also, the thing I don't understand is he clearly committed to the show like 3 months ago.
Okay.
Why is he only telling her now?
True. But there's also the side of like they're pretty like they're not fully on a crew, but like obviously Nurys is cool with his ride or die, which we'll get to in a sec. But like there's ample opportunity where and they've talked about how they've known each other. They've kind of been circling each other for a while. So like that also plays a role, I think, in like, wait a second, we had all this time where we could have hung out. We can't do this now. Which I also understand that too. Because I think there's a level of when we all know when you're taking something seriously and when you're not taking something seriously. Right.
Hmm.
But what did you make of the conversation had after though? Where he's basically telling her the whole thing, and then it kind of seems just as they're getting together, they're kind of breaking up. But I want to focus in more on her telling that story to um
Olivia.
Olivia. Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack here. First of
Mhm.
all this seems like it's news to Olivia, which is weird.
Mhm.
And she later says that like they're basically not speaking in the house. Like it seems like they're drifting apart,
Okay.
which is notable and interesting. But the other thing, we just finished praising Horacio. I think it's super fucked up that he's standing outside listening to this conversation.
That was kind of weird. And they didn't also elaborate on that. They kind of showed it, but there was no like follow up, which I feel like I needed a follow up, like just a confessional, like, hey, what were you doing? Like, what could you hear? Why were you doing that?
Yeah, I think that's like a real betrayal of trust.
I'd also, as a producer, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to go a next step further on the betrayal of trust. If there was a way that I could have alerted them that he was listening, I would
Yeah.
have done that. Right.
Yeah.
So that they would have caught him.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. I thought it was, I mean, she's been really vulnerable with Olivia.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, for Horacio to like listen in, super not cool.
I'm going to tiptoe around how I say this. And the reason I'm tiptoeing is for, I'm not going to say the reason, but the reason I'm going to tiptoe around saying this. And Olivia's giving me like weird vibes in this whole thing because I don't get Olivia. Like, I understand if she's like, hey, me and Horacio's relationship has changed, but she's also pretty salty about Zara too. And like
Mhm.
Horacio's relationship with Zara. And I think, like, why are you so worried about that? Especially if Nurys isn't worried about that. Why should you be worried about that? But more importantly, in this time where Nurys is like obviously upset, she's super emotional about what just happened. I feel like Olivia's role here as the friend is to support, and instead she uses it to kind of like pile on Horacio or like diss
Mhm.
Horacio, and it just comes off as like the hater friend and like dudes in relationships, and I'm sure it goes the other way, but I feel like the dynamics between male and female friends and then how
Mhm.
they deal with their friends in relationships are different. So
Mhm.
I'm speaking on it from like the guy's point of view. I feel like a lot of guys know who their girlfriend's hater friends are.
Yeah.
Does
I'm
that
gonna
make
put
sense?
I'm also gonna put this out here. If you were in a situation like Horacio
Mhm,
and your lady friend, potential lady friend,
mhm.
and you maybe butted heads,
Okay.
if she came to me and was like, "Hey, John, like here's what's going on," and like starts laying it out,
Mhm.
there's a certain point where I'm gonna say, "Listen, I like you. I think you're great. I'm rooting for you and Sheldon, but he's my guy.
Mhm.
I can't. You can't be putting this on me. Like you're
Yeah.
compromising my friendship with Sheldon.
Mhm.
Like best of luck. I'm not going to speak ill of you to Sheldon, but like we gotta draw a line here because like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like Olivia didn't say like, hey, like I'm so sorry about this. Like this is a tough situation. I don't envy you. Uh, you know, but Horacio is my guy, and like I'm not gonna like advocate or like commiserate with you just because like I just can't get in the middle of this. You know, like that's sort of
Yeah.
I think the mature response, and Olivia doesn't do that
Yeah.
significantly.
Yeah.
Did you see the Twitter exchange between Olivia and Nurys?
I did not.
They do not like each other, Sheldon.
Ooh, so what happened? I wonder if we're gonna find out.
They apparently Olivia talked all kinds of shit behind her back. Like there is all
Ooh,
kinds of issues.
drama. I like it. I like it. I wonder though, how is it possible? I feel like this is something that has to be on the show, right?
Mhm.
Because, you know, the way that these two, I feel like they how do I say this? You can okay, I was tiptoeing around, but I feel like there's something going on here with Olivia where she's kind of jealous. I'm just gonna say it.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that she wants Horacio or wanted to be with Horacio, but I think that what happens sometimes in human nature is you tell yourself that you're friends with someone, but you're really just saying that you want it to be more, but you're waiting on the other person to acknowledge it. And so you might be friends for a while, you might end up being friends for a long time, but if that person were to make the move, you wouldn't be so upset. You know what I'm saying? And I think now
Yeah.
that Olivia is like, okay, so this was my ride or die. And now you guys are hooking up or want to hook up or whatever. But then on top of that, you're also now friends with Zara in the house. And I'm now fallen from, I was your ride or die. And now I'm like, maybe you're number 3. I think like feelings are hurt. Ego is hurt here.
Yeah, I think I truly believe that men and women can be friends, like straight men and
Of
straight women
course.
can be friends
Of course.
without complications. But I do think that there's sort of
That's not what I was saying for the record. Of course they can.
no, no, no. But I think that sometimes without being romantically or sexually involved,
Mhm.
male and female people can sort of be placeholders for relationships.
Ooh, that's deep. Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Mhm.
Like, I'm not going
Mhm.
to name names because you know this person as well, but I have a friend and she was single for a long time
Mhm.
and she had a male friend
Mhm.
and nothing ever happened between them
Mhm.
sexually or romantically.
Mhm.
But because they're both perpetually single, they would do date like activities.
Yeah.
They would even, on Valentine's Day, for lack of anything better to do, go out
Mm.
to dinner together.
Okay.
That's a weird dynamic. And I think
Yes.
again, I'm not saying with like Olivia and Horacio that there was feelings, but like he occupied he's did part of the work of a boyfriend.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he's not doing that now.
Yes. And especially in a heightened scenario like the challenge, right? Like, because
Mhm.
obviously, real life, you're going to have different people at different scenarios. And I remember being in a situation before with an ex where they were kind of like, hold on, like, who is like, they were asking about like one of my friends and trying to figure out like what the dynamic was. And I
Mhm.
stressed so hard. I'm like, no, no, no. I don't think you understand. Like, that's like my sister. Like, that's
Mhm.
not. And like for most dudes, or I should say, dudes who are my friends that I know, there's lines where it's like, no, no, no. Like, once someone enters into like this sphere, that's just not what it is. It's just not a thing. Like, that's not how I look at it. And I remember we were having the conversation, and she was like, but what if like one night you guys were both drunk? I'm like, that's already happened and nothing happened because like that's
Mhm.
not a thing. Like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Like, if that was
Mhm.
going
Mhm.
to be a thing, there would ample opportunity for that to have happened, and it just would never happen because it's not a thing. And I remember she just couldn't wrap her head around it. It was the funniest thing ever because it was like what one of the questions was, um, what if you got like drunk dialed like really late at night and it was her on the phone and she was like, hey, come over. I'm like, honestly, I would question if something's wrong. Like, I'd be worried because I
Mhm.
think like something is like seriously wrong.
Like it was a code word.
something just like something's up, or like you're like way too hammered, like something went really wrong. Like I'd be like, what is wrong? Is everything okay? Because that's just not the nature of the situation, right? And like I feel like once you if you have the ability to have those relationships, then I feel like you have stronger relationships just everywhere else around you
Mm.
because you have open and honest dialogue with your closest people. And I don't think most people do. I think people say they have a lot of friends, but they really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Real friends. But it also
True.
told me a lot, if I'm being honest, about what their relationship was with their male friends, if you understand what I'm saying.
I do. I do know what you're saying.
Right. It was very telling to me to be like, oh, wait a second. So does that mean that you know that these dudes that you're telling me are just your friends are all just sitting around waiting for you to be like, oh, hey, like losers. But anyways,
So we have another interesting
this pod has been amazing.
friendship situation to parse out.
Mhm.
So after this heart to heart, which we should note, Nurys says that she'd written in her journal that she thinks she's fallen in love with Horacio.
Yeah.
They have reconnected. They're lying in a bed together
Yep.
and like cuddling, spooning. They start to make out a little. She gets on top of him. Your girl Berna walks in. And
Yes.
she's like, no, like I need to sleep in this room. And I don't want to hear. And she simulates certain noises,
Yep.
which I thought was really excessive.
Mhm.
And she's like, nah, you got to go, Nurys.
That's a bit much. She's doing too much doesn't even begin to explain what Berna was doing here. Like they're grown ass people, and I'm gonna be honest, if that was me and I was either Horacio or Nurys, I'd be like, hold on, I'm a grown ass man or woman. Who are you? Right? Like
Yeah.
you don't get to tell me I need to be here or be anywhere. Like, who are you? Nobody told you you had to do that and sleep there. This is a big house. You could find somewhere else to go.
Be solution oriented, Berna.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
It's just weird.
another real life story from John Chipley Hill's days in undergrad. It's playing Mario Kart 64 in residence against one of my boys.
Okay.
And like he was playing really bad, Sheldon. I was kicking his
Mhm.
ass. I was lapping him. I was talking
Okay.
all kinds of this shit. I beat him. I turned back because he was sitting behind me.
Mhm.
He was making out with some girl.
Ooh.
So what did I do? I put the
Kept
controller
playing.
on the ground and I walked out.
Yes. Well
I didn't say
played.
anything. Like I
That,
said, oh, like because I was surprised. I said, oh, but that was all the commentary I had.
yeah.
And I exited the situation. It's not my business.
Yeah. No,
That
I hear
that's
you.
that's the move.
Yeah.
Right? Like survey the situation. But then your girl Berna sees that Raven and
See, this
Emmanuel.
okay. They put this together as if it was the same night. There's no way this was the same night, right?
It was heavily implied it was the same night.
I know, but I'm saying like it
But not
couldn't
just by
be.
the edits. Like it looked like Nerys was like in the process of getting out of
That's
the
true.
bed from Horacio's
Yeah,
scene,
that is true.
and then like Raven's like, I can't believe what Berna just did. And like, listen, Berna is morally correct.
Yes.
Emmanuel has a
Mhm.
girlfriend at home.
Mhm.
He should not be fooling around.
Okay.
However,
He already has.
according he already has that ship has sailed.
Mhm.
His girlfriend's already going to see the season of the challenge and be very upset.
Mhm.
That's too late, Berna. You are too late.
But doesn't she know that? Doesn't everyone know? Does everyone in the house know
Yeah.
that he and Colleen hooked up? They do, right?
Oh, Sheldon. Here's where your boy brings it full circle.
Okay.
In Neresa's tweets about
Oh.
Olivia, she
Oh.
says that early on in the house, Emmanuel knew where there was no cameras and he and Olivia
Whoa.
fooled around,
Wow.
reaching third base.
Oh,
And
hold on.
after that, Emmanuel wanted little to do with Olivia. So
Wow.
again, the ship has sailed. The ship sailed weeks ago.
Wow. 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 Wow.
So, like, listen, I know. I know Berna's right. But Berna, just find somewhere else to sleep. Like, there comes a point where you just have to wash your hands of what other people are doing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No,
Like,
for sure.
just peace out.
Doing too much. And also, not Horacio. What's my guy's name?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel. Mr.
Emmanuel.
Vampire. He's a grown ass vampire. You got to let him do his own thing and make his own mistakes.
He is centuries old. You got
Right?
to let him do his own thing.
He's already made his mistakes. Let him continue to make his mistakes. Because let's be serious for a second here, right? If the girlfriend's already finding out about one woman, right? You coming in to stop him from being with another woman doesn't really like make things better. If you know what I'm saying. Like if you're the significant other at home and it's like you cheated on me with one person and then you cheated on me with two people and then he's like, no, I didn't. I got stopped before I was about to do it. Like that doesn't make it any better, does it?
I'm also going to point this out. Okay, so Berna stops them.
Okay.
They're obviously going to get another opportunity. Like Berna can't be everywhere.
True.
Right? Like Manuel has clearly found a place where the cameras don't cover. Guy's on a mission. Raven knows what she's getting into.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be able to stop them. So just like
this reunion is gonna be great.
Oh, it's gonna be so good. Not as good as the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion, but pretty good.
You know what? I've never jumped into it, but I know that the Twitter sphere, because obviously, listen, my Twitter timeline hits like a lot of different corners of the Twitter world. So there's a reality TV pocket, obviously. And yeah, there's a lot of talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So
listen, some of the Real Housewives shows are hard to get into. Mm-hmm. Salt Lake City, they're only on their third season.
Okay.
It's incredible. If you're going to watch any Real Housewives show.
Okay.
I'm not just speaking to you, Sheldon. I'm speaking to anyone. I'm speaking to people in the future. If you're going through back episodes of You Killed It and you've never seen Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, get in now. Buy stock. It is by far the best Real Housewives show.
By far, he says. Okay.
Listen, Sheldon, I'm just gonna say it. Bill Cosby's niece is on the show, and she is possibly a cult leader. What more do you need? She's not even the most controversial person.
Wow. That is an elevator pitch if there was one to watch a show.
Sheldon, she's not even the one that got arrested while they were filming.
Wow. Hold on. How does that even happen? Damn. Okay.
Homeland Security in the second season arrested one of them.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like
so. Speaking of stupid decisions, nominations come around. Mm-hmm. Zara nips this Berna Zara situation in the bud by nominating herself.
Yeah. Never a good move. Just never a smart
It's never a good idea.
Why? It doesn't make sense. Because there's too many variables at play. You could listen, being confident in yourself and in your abilities is cool. The problem is you don't know what the elimination could be. You don't know who the elimination is against. And why would you put yourself in that scenario? Because again, you could be the best challenger on this by far, but it has nothing to do with who the other people are that you're on the show with, because you're obviously going against a challenge champ that you don't know who it could be. But apparently, I guess they had hints of who it could be because
Yeah.
some people were worried.
Let me add on to what you're saying though, because I think this is important. How does this improve Zara's standing in the house?
It doesn't.
She was going to be the house vote. Next time it's a women's elimination, she'll probably be the house vote again,
Correct.
right? Like she's counting heavy on Berna continuing to cock block everyone. Like that's not a
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. I think she clearly thought that, this was going to make her look really cool, but someone called her out after, right? Who was it? I forget who
Berna
it was.
did.
Oh, yeah.
Berna
It's
and
like,
Asaf.
yeah. It's like, you're going in anyways, but cool. Good luck. I thought that was pretty funny. But overall, just not a good look, anyways, because who knows who everyone else is going to vote for. Plus, how many times have we seen someone just put themselves in by just saying something dumb?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going to happen. But also, the whole fact that it was Laurel coming out, like, I mean, does she know who Laurel is? I don't know. But bottom line, you don't know what the elimination was going to be.
No, we got to talk about Laurel and the threat of Laurel.
Yeah.
Because your girl Michelle
Mm-hmm.
is shook.
Shook ones, switched her demeanor.
Because Laurel hates her justifiably.
Mm-hmm. They got
And
beef.
they got mad. They got so much beef they could open up a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And Michelle knows that if Laurel pulls the chaos mace, she's going to get called down. She's probably going to get dummied.
Now, do you think Michelle would have a chance in anything against Laurel?
Yeah, I mean, I think the competition that it ended up being, anyone could have won.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it played to Laurel's strengths.
Okay.
Laurel's strength is that she's like 6 feet tall and like 190 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. No,
Right?
that's fair. And Laurel's mentality is just like,
It's a different level.
she
She has
wants
a
to
different
smoke.
she has a different gear than everyone else.
Yeah, she wants to smoke.
So I mean that was interesting. I was when Laurel did show up for the elimination, I was rooting so hard for her to pull the chaos mace. That would have been sick.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, she pulls Raven's name. Fart
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah, that was a letdown. I feel like, everyone wanted it. The fact that she called her, like, that's my line of the episode when she just called her Purple Jacket. she she didn't even call Michelle by name. I was like, the level of disrespect. It's just why I love Laurel so much. Laurel is great reality TV.
She's so good. I miss her. I miss her in her prime.
Mm-hmm.
She was so good.
Yeah.
So it's her versus Raven. It's chain reaction. So what they have to do is they have to pull a chain that is multicolored, like it's got paint on it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And once they're done pulling the chain, they then have to unlock, they take a key from the end of the chain, they unlock a chest, and in the chest are these wooden pegs that are painted colors. And they have to put the pegs into a pegboard in the order of the colored chains that they pulled. Did I explain that correctly? I think I got it.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like who can pull the chain fastest, but who can keep it organized or memorize all the colors. There's more than 100 colors because it's 10 rows of 10. So like no one's going to be able to memorize that. But like you could, I guess, memorize the first 10, maybe.
Yeah.
And then just like come back, or like both Raven and Laurel take the approach of just being really organized and sort of like laying the chain out in their space.
Yeah.
And trying to like plan it out that way. What did you think of their approaches, Shelley?
So I thought that their approaches were very good. I thought it was like, that's the way you got to go about it. You got to pull it out slowly, but not like just tangle it up because you want to maintain some level of order. I thought this was a really hard challenge, but it's one where you have to, I think Laurel had the right idea where it was like, I'm not paying attention to what she's doing. I'm going to focus it on what I'm doing and make sure that I have everything right. Which I thought was the right thing. She just obviously made a couple mistakes and wasn't able to get there. But on the flip side, like, let's be honest, what did this come down to in the end? It came down to the fact that the whole crew was helping Raven. And hey, that's just a challenge thing that happens sometimes in the elimination. And let's be honest, that's what they should have been doing this whole time, because the person that goes in there is trying to keep y'all's money. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting challenge. It was pretty cool, but it was one where if I was production, what I would do next time is just make the challenge competitor further away from the rest of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it's more difficult for them to help.
I wonder if they got to choose or do you think they were just put?
I don't know. That's interesting. I feel like it was just put, because there's an update that I want to read. I was searching for a tweet for a very long time because I knew that I saw it and I wanted to read it verbatim instead of trying to paraphrase it. But the reason I think this is because this is from Laurel. Laurel says, I just want to say this is how you know, in all caps, the challenge is not rigged. I told every producer what I wanted and who I wanted to go against. All the rest of the girls, I had no desire to ruin their experience. And I got to be honest, she says she told every producer, if I was one of those producers, I'm rigging it. I'm telling you where the chaos is. I'm letting you call her down. She's going to have to take off the purple jacket, and it's not going to be hall brawl, because I'm not going to do that. Like, that's too far. I'm not even going to make it the wishbone, because that's going to be too much. I don't think I'd even make it something physical, but maybe I'd make it like the one that she lost to Cara Maria in.
Yeah,
Like, you have to wrap the ropes around, something like that. That's like hard. It's physical, but it's not like directly one-on-one contact. Like, I'm not going to allow Laurel to put her hands on her.
Yeah, that's essentially conspiring to assault. Right?
Exactly.
I do think, though, that Laurel, who I love, I think Laurel was too caught up in the idea of facing Michelle, and then when she didn't get Michelle, it sort of like deflated her.
Yeah, definitely.
I also think that I'm not a big Michelle guy. I think that's been made clear. But I think she had a valid point when she said of Laurel that Laurel's biggest weakness is that she can never be wrong. Mm-hmm. So when she is wrong, she slows down because she can't process it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we saw here.
Interesting. Yeah, no arguments here. I think that was a very tough one. And I think Laurel, once she got her first check and it was wrong, she's completely rattled. And instead of trying to like figure out where she went wrong, she like lost herself. And I honestly think too, and especially after seeing that tweet and seeing her tweets afterwards, in which Raven tweeted at her saying, Rio recognized Rio, Laurel Stuckey, still at a loss for words. Thank you for believing in me. And Laurel says, good job, Raven. Beat me fair and square. You keep believing in yourself. Remember what we talked about. It comes from within. I'm not saying that Laurel threw it, because she's not going to do that. But I'm saying she was less hype to continue, we'll say, after she, fumbled the first attempt.
Yeah. One thing I have to point out, like I said, I led off this episode saying my girlfriend watched the end. So she basically just saw the elimination. Mm-hmm. She asked a good question. What was stopping the competitors from taking the bucket filled with the pegs over to where the chains were and just organizing it right there?
I'm going to hope the rules. Because the one thing we learned from the Jordan episode, right, when Jordan came on, he said that he asked so many questions. Like, they didn't show so much of the elimination, right? But he asked so many questions about what the rules were in terms of him being able to make contact with Kieran,
Mhm.
am I allowed to tackle him? Are we allowed to do? And like the producer said no. And then there were moments where it happened anyways, and they had to stop it. So my assumption would be, or my hope would be, that they would ask. Because my other thing would be, I would have just dragged the chain over,
Mhm.
right? So then now I can just line it up that way.
Yeah.
And it's less distance for me to go to see where, each things are.
Even failing taking the whole box, wouldn't you just take like armfuls and just like lay them out?
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
definitely.
I feel like they could have thought outside the box a bit more.
Always the case.
I
That's why they
I'm
need
gonna
Johnny Bananas.
I'm gonna point it out. I didn't have a line of the episode. I'm not really. I know I said this last episode of You Killed It. I'm not really feeling anyone.
So here's the thing. With all of the challenge vets coming back on, it's a reminder in some instances. I thought so with Laurel. I thought so with Jordan. I thought so with Darrell. Like they're just so much better at the TV portion of it. Like Darrell came on and he gave like 3 one-liners, like just in like he was shooting a high rate. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Laurel comes on with the purple jacket, right? Like it was just like they know what they're doing TV wise. I still feel like all the cast members on this season are trying to figure themselves out. And the reason why Michelle and Jay, they're the most experienced, and that's why they have kind of taken center stage because they're the most confident in sort of stepping into that space. And even Michelle, like, think about what she was trying to do, right? Michelle was trying to play it off as if she was going to, like, bat her eyes at Laurel and that was going to like make everything okay, and no. So I just think it's a different type of season with people who are trying to figure out who they are on the challenge.
Hmm.
Like Horacio doesn't even talk, really.
I saw Jemmy, friend of the show, Jemmy, tweet. She made a good point. Production clearly went with people who would not cost a lot in terms of their per episode appearance fee.
Ooh,
Because
okay.
if you're talking people who've never won,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of names
Oh yeah,
that you could have.
yeah,
Off the top of my head,
of
Corey,
course.
Kyle, right? Like, I think
I think I
those
just saw
two.
Kyle's going to be on Geordie Shore.
Yeah, well, that's where you started from, right?
Oh, it is. Totally forgot that. I thought it was like
Um,
Are You the One or something like that.
I think he was later on like X on the Beach and stuff, but he started on Geordie Shore. But like, there's a lot of people you could have on who never won.
Totally.
Anissa
Mm-hmm.
famously never won,
Yep.
right? The list goes on. Um, they're nowhere to be seen. Different
Yeah.
show with those people on.
Yeah. It is a very different season of the challenge. Um, I don't like it is it is a strange season, and I'm interested to see where it keeps going.
So I have to ask you, Sheldon, who killed it for you this week?
Oh, Laurel. Every time
Oh,
Laurel is just great TV. And Laurel came in at the end. She had the fear in Michelle from early. She came in just mean mugging, staring down. She came in with the energy, the vibes, and it was amazing. And I know that she lost. That doesn't matter. Anytime we get to see Laurel, I'm happy because that brings me back to, you know, simpler times on the challenge, better times on the challenge. And I'm here for that.
um, I guess. God, it's so hard this season because like no one's playing this game well. I guess I'm going with Kyland, who seems to slowly be putting together what needs to be done.
Okay.
The question is, will he do it? Like, is he the one to be like, hey guys, let's put in Jay and Michelle? Because there is a conversation that Kyland has with Horacio
Mm-hmm.
where he's like, Michelle seems pretty full of herself. She's looking out for herself, and she seems to really believe that she's running this whole place. We should probably go after her.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is quite strange. I agree with you. Kylan's an interesting cat. especially since DJ Mel's gone. I'm interested to see what happens with him as well.
Yeah.
Him and the
Where
Horacio duo.
where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Huge shouts to the people liking and subscribing to the pod. Wherever you get the pod, we appreciate the likes and shares and rates and follows and all that fun stuff that people do to support podcasts because we appreciate that.
You can find me on Goodreads at J Chidley Hill. Set my book challenge, my reading challenge for 2024 at 20 books. Last year I did 21 books. I fell short. So I scaled it back down.
Okay.
Just the 20. I'm feeling good, reading an excellent book on basketball analytics, but then I'm going to do some fiction, going to get ahead early, pump those numbers early. Join me on Goodreads, folks.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe I will.
Yeah, you should. I love talking books. You know this, Shelley.
This is true.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.